And good evening, Pittsburgh Steelers fans. Welcome to, well, not Steelers Friday Night Six Pack, not officially. It's a special night. You always wanted me to have some guests on the show. And tonight, not just one, but I have two guests, two legends. One of them is co-editor Dave Schofield. And the other one is...
You're calling me a legend? Really, Tony?
Hey, I'm all about, you know me, I'm all about just going overboard. But the other legend is, the true legend is Robert Golden, former Steelers safety and special teams ace, and he's here to talk to some Steelers and some of his activities post Steelers. So, Dave, I'll turn it over to you so you can introduce Robert.
Yeah, Robert, I was going to say how you doing tonight, but I forget you're on the West Coast, right. So I guess it's more early evening for you.
Yes, it's about 6 o'clock, but all is well, man. Excited to be on here with you guys. You know, anytime I get to connect with Steeler Nation, it's always a pleasure. So thanks for having me.
Well, yeah, we're really glad that you could join us tonight. I love the backdrop. Very impressive. Shelves back there. We're going to get to, because we want to spend plenty of time on what you're doing post NFL career. Cool. But this is Steeler fans. They want to talk they want to talk Steelers. They want to
talk about the game. Absolutely. I mean, I know the Steeler Nation well, man, and especially know the fans that is out in Pittsburgh. So they live and breathe, the black and gold, and so do I. So I'm all about it. Let's do it.
So in 2012, you're coming out of the University of Arizona. You're undrafted. Right. How'd you end up with Pittsburgh? How is that where you ended up?
Man, I tell you what, man, I have no idea. Throughout my NFL draft process, I probably spoke to the Steelers once at my pro day, but right after the draft, they were the first team to call me, and I had several. But just speaking with Kevin Colbert and some of the scouts that I was able to talk to post draft, they just seemed like the Steelers would be the perfect fit for me, and went out there and gave it my all, and ended up having a nice career with them.
Absolutely. So go ahead, Tony.
No, I had a question. Since you were an undrafted free agent, when you got the word finally from I guess from Coach Tomlin that you made the team, was it like an invincible moment? Mark Wahlberg, where you were just so elated and you went and called everybody, had a big celebration. I can only imagine that kind of feeling.
Absolutely, man. I was actually at the team hotel, and they were telling us, that the final roster should be made by 4 o'clock. So it was about 3:45. My phone hadn't rang. And I'm like, okay, we're getting close. And around 3:50, my phone rang. It's a 412 area code. I'm like, oh no, they getting me. But it was actually a call from the player development rep. At the time, it was Ray Jackson. And he just wanted to sneak and tell me that, Rob, you made the team. And I was just, so excited. I gave my parents a call. They were the first ones that I called, and they were so happy for me. But I just knew I needed the opportunity to be able to showcase my talents, and was just thankful that the Steelers were able to give me that opportunity, and was thankful for the time that I was able to be there and the relationships that I was able to establish while being in that locker room.
Yeah, and I mean, that's to go from undrafted to, you're in training camp. You're just trying, you're trying to make the team. Were you thinking, well, at least maybe the practice squad, or, or is that not even in your mind? Or you're like, am I going to get, maybe picked up on waivers? Right. But I mean, this is how so many in the NFL, this is the path that they take.
Absolutely. So, I tell you what, man, I've always been a goal setter. And when I set out, as a little kid, I said I was going to play in the NFL. And when I got my opportunity to, play for the Steelers, during training camp and got invited, I said I was going to make the team, and I did. And when I was getting ready to walk away from the NFL, I said I'm going to start a school, and it's going to be one of the best schools in the nation. And I believe it's going to be that. But I believe that whatever you set your mind to, if you really believe it and attack it every day, the sky is the limit. So that's how I've always tried to live my life. And that's what I plan on educating students on doing as well, too, once the Golden Charter Academy opens up.
Yeah, no, we want to talk about the school, but I do have to ask one more question about your
Absolutely.
playing time with Pittsburgh, and
Absolutely.
that is, okay, you were mainly a special teams guy,
Yes,
for the majority of your career, and then you started in all for the Steelers. You started 12 games,
yes,
but before you even started a game in 2014,
yes,
you had a touchdown
yes.
in Week 3 against the Carolina Panthers.
Right.
Tell us about that experience.
Man, I tell you what, when I scored the touchdown, it was a surreal moment, just being in the NFL and actually scoring a touchdown as a special teams guy. It was very exciting for me, and I still have that ball when I recovered it in the end zone.
That was my follow-up.
Absolutely.
You had the ball.
Whenever a defensive guy or a special teams guy, in my case, can get our hands on the ball, it's always a good feeling, So scoring my first touchdown in the NFL it was a thankful moment and exciting, and still have the ball right now. I'm going to tell my sons about that story when they get older.
That's
Excellent.
awesome.
Excellent, Tony. But before we move on, would you have another question here for Robert before we get on to what he's been doing?
Yeah, during your time with the Steelers, who were the players, the veterans that took you under your wing, like the defensive backs or anybody else on the team that really,
or a coach,
that showed you the Steeler way and taught you what it meant to be a professional football player and the life you had to live to make it at the NFL level?
Absolutely, man. I tell you what, when I first walked through the doors with the Pittsburgh Steelers, I believe it was around the OTAs time, Ryan Clark was the first one to embrace me. And it was great because he was kind of like my big brother. He took the same route that I took, to make it to the NFL. He was an undrafted guy, was able to, make his name known, for his special teams play. And then he became a starting free safety in the NFL and went off to have a great career. But Ryan Clark and Troy Polamalu was so close, so it was just like those were both my big brothers, and they were the ones that taught me, how to be a professional on and off the field, how to take care of my body and things of that nature to make sure that I'm healthy. But then I had another big brother in Ike Taylor, and he was the one that was able to show me around the city of Pittsburgh and show me some of his favorite restaurants and things that he liked to do, outside of football. So those were the guys that really embraced me my rookie year, and then as I continued to play for the Steelers, I started to eat breakfast all the time with the offensive line guys, Ramon Foster and Al Villanueva, Marquise Pouncey and those guys, so I began to get close with those guys as I got, older in my career, but definitely, Troy, Ryan, Ike Taylor and the offensive line, those were my guys while I was at the Steelers.
All right. So I've got to ask a follow-up here, but before I do, we had Ike Taylor on. It was before last season, before the season started. He gave us one of our best lines because he was coming. We were talking about some of the, how he would defend some of the current Steelers receivers, and he referred to James Washington as Grandpa Strong, and we've kind of adopted that nickname for James Washington ever since. But that was the Ike Taylor dropping some good lines for us.
Right.
But how about since you've been out of the NFL? How do you keep in touch with any of your former teammates with Pittsburgh? And, how does that kind of work? Because sometimes players struggle when they leave the game because they don't always have the connections with the same people and everything. Are you still in communication with any of these guys?
Well, I keep in touch with a certain few. You create some relationships in that locker room that, become lasting relationships. One of my guys is Sean Spence. We came in together as rookies, and man, he's kind of like my best friend. So we probably talk, 4 or 5 times a week. But it's a lot of other guys that I keep in touch with as well too. But once you're out of the NFL and you begin to live your life and start doing things that, you wasn't doing when you were playing in the NFL, people's schedules get busy and sometimes relationships grow apart. But one thing that's for sure, I got a lot of mutual respect for a lot of my old former teammates, and I still talk to a lot of the current Steelers to this day. So it's just relationships, man, that you can build in that in the locker room that become bonds. And I'm just thankful for the ones that I was able to keep in contact with to this day.
That's fantastic. And let's transition now into how you transitioned, because it was 2018. You had left the Steelers to go to Kansas City. Things weren't working out there, and you just chose to walk away for the most part. And because you had a bigger vision. Why don't you tell us about how this all went down and how that's led into where you are today?
Right. Well, throughout my NFL career, man, one of the things I always wanted to do was come back to my hometown, which is Fresno, California, and be a source of inspiration or motivation for children that are growing up in similar areas as myself. I grew up in a very rough neighborhood and underserved area of Fresno, California. And, I just kind of wanted to be a inspiration to those children and let them know that if they took care of their academics and dreamed big, that things could happen, and things can happen for them. So throughout my time, I put on different camps, different health and fitness classes for parents, different anti-bullying programs for children. I always was involved with children back in my hometown. And when I left the Steelers, man, and went with the Kansas City Chiefs, I can honestly say there's no place like Steeler Nation. There's no place like the Pittsburgh Steelers organization. And with that organization, you feel like you're at home. You feel like you're welcomed and things of that nature. And not to say that I wasn't welcomed at Kansas City, but it was just a different vibe. And one of the things that I always had a bigger heart for was to be able to be a source of inspiration for children. And at that time, I knew that my heart wasn't really in love with the game as it once was. And I just felt that it was time for me to do something different. And that's when I asked the Kansas City Chiefs for my release to pretty much come back home and start this school. And I'm looking forward to opening our doors in August of this year. It will be our first year, but Golden Charter Academy is the first TK through 8th environmental zoo school in the nation. We have a partnership with the Fresno Chaffee Zoo, and we're looking forward to giving our children a hands-on learning experience to give them exposure to a life that they would not have had they not went to the Golden Charter Academy.
Yeah, before we get going, we have one of our other podcasters in the live chat who dropped $5 dingo because he's coming from Australia, from down under, and he says, nice. I'm not even going to try to do the accent. But he says, "Good day, Mr. Golden. Thanks for your time in Pittsburgh. On you, mate. Cheers." I'm just going to leave it at that. But thanks, Mark, for dropping that in there.
Great.
And so your school's going to be opening in August. So does that? What is your expectations? Do you already have enrollment for the fall, or what's the process you're at right now?
Right. So currently we've been open for registration for a while. Our school will open with grades TK through 3rd. With 198 students. Currently, we have close to 300 students registered. So we will be hosting a lottery to see who gets in. I tell my staff all the time, we're going to host a draft,
There you go.
A draft to see who gets into the school, but for the educational code purposes, we have to call it a lottery, but definitely want to make it fun for our children and for our community. I think it's going to be a really special school. We currently have a temporary location that we're opening up in, but we are in the plans right now of having a state-of-the-art facility built directly across the street from the Fresno Chaffee Zoo to give our children, easy access to the zoo grounds to help enhance our curriculum. But not only that, it's an environmental stewardship school. So we will be able to take our children to some of our local agencies here and let them be involved with the natural habitats to have a hands-on learning experience and, get our kids out of the traditional classroom and let them be outside and at the zoo grounds. And that will be part of their classroom as well. So looking forward to changing the paradigm of education here in Fresno, California, and giving our kids an opportunity to really see themselves as being the next great architect, lawyer, judge, zoology, biologist, or whatever the case may be that they want to dream of. We just want to be able to create those opportunities for them to have those experiences as well.
And I have a question. Do you have any plans? I know it's still early, but do you have any plans of maybe expanding, having satellite schools in different cities and different neighborhoods across the country, or even just in California?
Absolutely, Tony, man. One of the things I said earlier is that I've always dreamed big, man. I believe that when you put your mind to something, anything is possible. So, there's going to be plans to have multiple locations here in Fresno, California, but I also plan on, taking this out to Northern California, Southern California, possibly out to Arizona, where I went to college at, and there, who knows, could possibly be in Pittsburgh as well too.
Awesome.
Set up close to the Pittsburgh Zoo. I haven't been there since I was in kindergarten.
Absolutely. In fact, one of the chief of staffs here at the Fresno Chapter Zoo, he used to be the curator, I believe, for the elephants at the Pittsburgh Zoo during my time while I was in Pittsburgh. So we've been able to share those Pittsburgh connections. And also the education director here at the Fresno Chapter Zoo, he's a Tucson native, where I went to college at as well too. So there's been a lot of connections on my journey of life, and who knows where, Golden Charter Academy will be next after we get this one established and get it up and running and make sure that it's successful and thriving. No telling where we can be next.
Oh. That's great. I love the vision. But I also love what you're doing here. You can just tell that that it's a process, where to start and everything to go. How hands are you going to be individually in the school? What's your plan there?
Yeah, so I'll be the head of school. There's going to be two administrators at our school. It'll be the head of school and the principal. So we will be the two that pretty much runs the show. But we will have teachers that will be, educating the class. We will have our principal that will be leading the curriculum instructions and things of that nature. And I'm the guy that got the vision and want to make sure that the vision is fulfilled, but also invite others into our school to be able to enhance my vision that I have. And I know that I'm new to the education world, but I've been working with children pretty much my whole adult life. So one of the things that I want to do is just continue to be a source of inspiration and motivation for children to see that anything is possible. I mean, you're looking at a guy that come from, a rural area that made it out of his neighborhood and, graduated from high school first. A lot of children from the area that I grew up in, don't even make it that far. But then you think about me, I made it to college as well and graduated from college. And then had the opportunity to be one of the 1% of athletes that made it all the way to the NFL. And now I'm retired from the NFL and opened up a school in the third biggest school district in the state of California, So not to toot my own horn, but I believe that I'm the prime example that anything is possible, even when the odds are stacked against you. And I just want children that come from, underserved and underrepresented areas, and all children especially, to continue to dream big and believe in the impossible and work hard in their academics and let the sky be the limit for them.
I know exactly what you mean, where you never know what your opportunities are, where they're going to put you.
Right.
Because I'll tell you, if you ever get all the way through high school, I was a high school physics teacher for over 10 years.
Wow.
So I was teaching the top of the top, was coaching football, had a family, took a short leave of absence to be a stay-at-home dad. And then I end up doing this job here we're writing about the Steelers. So you never know how it's going to go. But if you ever need any help with upper level science and math, you have a connection here. So,
well, I tell you what, man, we have a position open here in Fresno, California. So if you're willing to make that move, man, we'll definitely keep you in mind.
All right, hey Tony, you want to get our super chat that we have here? I think did I get it?
Yes,
there we go.
From, another $5 donation from Just Me, and she says, if I can get it up here. Sorry about that, Robert. I was in trouble with that. Here we go. That's awesome. Way to give back. Good deal, Mr. Golden. Thanks for showing up at BTSC. Go Steelers. My hometown, Compton, can use you. That's Just Me. It's one of our biggest regulars here on the podcast.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice. And in fact, we're getting ready to hire our principal. So we're going through our principal interview phases right now. And I'm actually interviewing a principal from Compton. So they actually coming down to town on March 15th. But definitely appreciate it. I think that's my formula. Whenever you are able to be blessed, to be put in a position to be able to bless others, so that's what I'm looking forward to doing, and appreciate your support.
Yeah. And one I gotta ask one last question about the school.
No problem.
That is, so you're the head of school or the headmaster, but are you thinking about using a cool football name or a zoo name to give your? I mean, if it's your school, you can give yourself any title you want,
right?
Or you think you better keep it a little bit more formal?
Well, I'm the CEO and head of school, but ultimately, once this school grow out, as I mentioned, we're going to open up TK through 3rd, and we will grow a grade every year until we become a TK through 8th school. But by that time, my plans is to hopefully have a vice principal hired by then, and then I can really sit here at the headquarters and figure out how I'm going to put a Golden Charter Academy in Pittsburgh, or
there you go,
Academy in Arizona, or out in Compton or somewhere like that, So my goal is to be hands-on with our students and get this school off the ground. But ultimately, I want to be able to sit back and continue to visualize how else and how much bigger we can make this school, and where else can we take it. So it's going to be fun. I'm always be around the children. I feel like that's where my heart and passion is. That's where I feel like that's my God-given purpose, to be on earth, to be an inspiration to children. So I'm always going to be involved with the school, but ultimately I like to remain in that CEO role and figure out how can I make this school even bigger than what it's going to be already.
Yeah, I didn't know if you wanted to be the head coach or the captain or something like that. But did you get was there any assistance or any programs through the NFL that helped to grow this, or from anyone else throughout the NFL that have assisted you along the way with this? Right.
Yeah. So early in the process, I was able to receive the social justice grant that the NFL Foundation had provided, and I applied for the grant and was able to be awarded the $5,000 donation. And I tell you what, during the early stages of starting this school, it was definitely helpful with building our website. I'm not sure if you guys were able to browse that, but we have a very unique and awesome website, which was able to be helped with by the NFL Foundation. And then also it took care of a lot of lawyer fees. But we still have a lot of lawyer fees and a lot of legal counsel fees right now. One thing about me, I want to make sure that we are always in legal compliance. So I've been taking on the financial ship of my own to build this school for the last 2 years. And I tell you what, anytime you can get some assistance, from the NFL or anyone that is, willing to donate to a school, it's definitely appreciated and helpful. But not only that, I recently received the Men of the Year nominee, Eric Kendricks for the Minnesota Vikings. He donated his nomination, $40,000 award to my school. And Eric Kendricks, he's actually a Fresno native as well. So for him to look back and support my efforts of what I'm doing in our hometown was definitely appreciated as well. So looking forward for more of my NFL friends or colleagues to participate and help me, get this school off the ground. But ultimately, I'm very thankful for the contributions that I had up to this point.
There you go. And for those of you, if you're listening to this in podcast form, It's www.goldencharteracademy.org. We have it scrolling across the bottom of the screen. If you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, go check it out. Everything that you want to see is right there. It is, it's a nice website and everything already set up and going there. So
absolutely. One thing I say about Golden Charter Academy, man, is everything we do is going to be excellent. Starting our website off as a excellent website, a nice viewing for our families and community people to be able to see what we're doing at this school, what our goals are, what our plans is. I believe that, we wanted to provide all of that. So please check us out at goldencharteracademy.org or even visit our Instagram account at goldencharteracademy.org. Or check us out on Twitter. We try to keep our people updated on Twitter as well at charter_golden. And, you can definitely get a lot more information on what we got going here in the Fresno, California city.
It's so great to hear when players have, successful. I mean, I'm already calling it a successful endeavor because
absolutely.
Granted, you're opening in August, but as someone who's in education, I know how far you have to be to get to the point that you are. And once you're where you are, there's no turning back from what you're going to have this fall. I wanted to bring up an older comment. This is from another one of our podcasters and writers for the website, Jeffrey Benedict. He said, Robert Golden is one of my favorite players. He was a special teams ace and he held it down when he played on defense. So you knew all about your role there, but Jeffrey also brought up something Tony wanted to talk about. And that was your we forgot about it before we rolled into what you're doing now. That's your perfect passing record in the NFL.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, Jeffrey, I appreciate the support. I tell you what, man, throwing those passes was something that we practiced pretty much every single day while I was with the Steelers. Coach Danny Smith, man, that's my guy. I still keep in contact with him until this day. In fact, I just shot him a text message last week and he got back to me. So, but when he came over to the Steelers, the first thing he asked me, can you throw? I'm like, yeah, I can throw, coach. And he said, man, we're going to put some special plays in for you. And we had a lot more plays drawn up for me, but we never got the opportunity to run them. But when we had the opportunity to throw the fake punts, we were able to execute them. So definitely was some highlight plays of my career being with Steeler Nation.
Now, did you have any experience in your playing quarterback at a different level or outfield in baseball, or how'd you come by your arm?
Right. Yeah. In fact, my freshman year, I was the quarterback for my high school team, and I kept playing quarterback, and my receivers, they was always crying, saying I threw the ball too hard at them. I had a strong arm, so. At that time, when they kept crying and complaining, I told my coach, I only want to play defense. And that time, I think it worked out for me. And that's when I just went strictly to defense, once my receivers in high school kept complaining about my throwing power.
Well, as in my 7 years coaching high school on various levels from freshman up to varsity, the quarterback was always not everyone, but a lot of players played both ways, and the quarterback, they were always defensive backs. That's just what they were. And we had one of our quarterbacks. He went on to play college, but he went on as a defensive back because that's where the real athletes play, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I tell you what, man, you got to be an athlete to play quarterback these days now too. So I'm excited to see how the NFL continues to evolve around good quarterbacks and good team leaders, pretty much.
Mm-hmm. Well, speaking of good quarterbacks, we only have you here for a few more minutes. We'll keep with the second part of the show for everyone who's here with us. Robert's here for the first part, and then Tony and I will be back for part two. But before we finish up here, you say quarterbacks. We had Benjamin Todd Roethlisberger signing basically a new deal yesterday. The Steelers are trying to, they're work with what everyone believes the salary cap is going to be. What are your thoughts on the Steelers 2021 season coming up?
Man, I tell you what, whenever you got Ben at the helm, you got an opportunity to win the AFC North. And you know how Steelers are. Once they get in the playoffs, man, they can make a run all the way to the Super Bowl. I think that signing Ben was a good thing until they find their next, starting quarterback. And, when you look at Ben and his season this past year, obviously the guy could still throw the ball very well. And, I think once you get a good running game to complement his passing ability, that's going to take a lot of pressure off him to have to go out there and win every single game with this arm. And then you look at the Steelers, drop ratings, they had a lot of drop passes, that does not fall on Ben's shoulders. But just looking at Ben from being at the QB position, man, he's a guy that can still throw it. I believe he still got, a few number of years left in the tank. So I'm interested to see how the Steelers build around him this year and see where they take it from there.
Tony, I feel like I've been kind of hogging everything here. Do you have I want to give you a chance to ask any questions.
Did I lose you?
All right, we're still here. We're still here.
Yeah, we got you still.
No, I just want to say I think it's a great thing that you're doing.
Lost connection.
Uh-oh. We still have you. I don't know if you have us or not.
Can you hear us, Robert?
He just moved. So this is our thing. Technical difficulties. Let's see. Going to drop him and see if I can bring him back up to see if that helps. Are you there, Robert? So he might have had out of a bit of a freeze there. We don't know if we're going to be able to get him back or not. Sorry, we didn't get Tony to have another question there.
Oh, that's right.
Do we have you, Robert?
I can hear you guys now. It's a little choppy, but you hear me?
Yes, we have you. Tony, do you have any?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, yes, we got you.
Yeah, I don't have a question. I just want to say I think it's great what you're doing, and I'm a big defender of professional athletes, okay, NFL players, and the work that they do in the community, and I think you're a great example. I wish I had something like that in my community when I was growing up, because I think I needed some better direction. So I think I just wish you all the luck in the world with your academy, and I hope it leads to bigger and better things. And I think it's always great when you connect with children in the community. I think it's a very important thing. Education is so important, and I thank you for that.
So I don't know if Robert still has us with the audio or not, if he can hear us or not, but we were at the very end of everything anyway. So hopefully you were able to catch what Tony was able to say there. I had one more good question for you, but it's all right. But we really want to thank you for joining us. Make sure, BTSC, that you check out the Golden Charter Academy.org. It's there on the bottom of the screen if you're watching. And don't know if you can hear us or not, Robert, but thank you very much for joining us.
Absolutely.
If you are listening to us on the podcast side, we are going to be moving into part 2, where Tony and I take a little bit of, do some Friday night stuff. If you're here on YouTube or Facebook, just give us a couple seconds and we'll be right back.
And welcome back, everybody. This is the Friday night 3-pack or 6-pack or whatever you want to call it. We're in the second half of the show, and that was so fantastic, wasn't it? I mean, Robert Golden. I mean, he's so ambitious, and he's so optimistic and so positive, and the stuff he's doing with his Golden Academy. I just can't wait to see how it turns out, and I hope for the best for him. And you did a great job today with the interview. That was fantastic. I can tell you're a pro. You're a pro. That was my first player interview. I know you asked me to make sure I was here too. I was going to let you have it all by yourself, but no, Tony, you're doing fine. You did great. I'm just glad to hang out with you. I haven't done a show with you for a very long time. It's been so long. It's been so long, and what are your thoughts on since we mentioned Ben and the new contract? And I read your article today. I actually linked it to the one I wrote. I read it like 3 times. I still don't understand what they did, but you explained it really well. Okay. He took a $5 million pay cut, but they saved $15 million. So I guess it's going to be prorated over voided years. to me, I think that, I don't know what you think, but I think that was like the best possible outcome for I think it's, you know, they weren't going to save much more money if he would have retired, $5 million more. So I think you have, I think your best option, a quarterback for 2021, the best realistic option, and you save $15 million. So I think it was a good deal.
Yeah, I do too. If you want me to, I'll kind of just outline the numbers just a tick. Because, and what's funny is I figured all this out before it got reported. Well, I mean, there was reports that the Steelers saved $15 million and he took a $5 million pay cut. And I'm like, these numbers don't add up. If people were saying that it's only for one more year, I'm like, there's got to be more years. And then another report said that there are void years on the contract. So I started doing the math to figure out how to get there. By the time I finished writing the article, there was more reports out of exactly what it was. And what do you know? It was the numbers I figured up. I popped it in there. Out went the article. So void years are basically fake years where they don't even give a player a base salary. They're just only there to spread out the salary cap hit even more, because when you look at the signing bonus, it's always the signing bonus. And I hope I don't lose you either, because I don't know if the wind's really picked up here, but my lights have gone on and off a couple of times. I don't know if you've noticed. So if I'm just gone, that's not me leaving you on purpose, Tony.
It's all right. It's all right.
But what they do is when a player gets a signing bonus, it's split up over the course of the player's contract, up to 5 years for however many years they have. Some people don't realize that up to 5 years thing, because if you sign an 8-year contract, your signing bonus to start only goes through the first 5. And that's just the way contracts are done in the NFL. So by adding on these extra void years, you always took that signing bonus and you divided it by the number of years left. Mm-hmm. And that's how much it was each year. You're like, well, why'd they have to add 4 void years? Well, if they only added 1, then half of that would have been in 2021 and the other half would be 2022. Then by going to have it be 3 years contract, 4-year contract, 5-year contract, I went through all that to figure it out. And I have another article coming out tomorrow to say, yeah, if Ben only plays this year, the Steelers have $10.34 million that's going to be dead money next year. That's not that bad when you compare it to some of the other big name quarterbacks whenever they've left their team. So the numbers were very interesting. Tony, I was shocked that Ben Roethlisberger is going to be playing in 2021 for only less than $4 million above what his salary cap hit was going to be anyway, just in dead money. Yeah. That's crazy to me. So, I mean, do you want to pay $22.25 million and not have Ben Roethlisberger and have that much count? Or do you want to have it count that little bit more and have Ben on your team? I think you're right there.
Yeah, I mean, you still want to compete in 2021, and I think a lot of these things that you're talking about, free agency with Juju and James Conner and Bud Dupree, like we knew last year that these guys were all likely going to be gone. So, they have a great receiver room still, even though Juju's likely gone. I think Alex Highsmith is going to be a decent player eventually, alongside TJ Watt. He's certainly going to get the opportunity to, with Watt getting double teamed all the time, he's going to get the opportunity to show what he has. And James, they're probably going to upgrade at the running back position, either in free agency or the draft. So you're still going to have a really good team next year. And I think if you just decide to move on from Ben, I think you're shortchanging your team if you're the Steelers, if you're Mike Tomlin or Kevin Colbert or Art the second. So I think it's just a matter of finding the right parts around Ben and rebuilding that offensive line. And I think they have a few young guys in place. And, it's just a matter of, do they address it in the draft? Do they address it in free agency? And now they have some freed up money to do that. So, I think, the reason why I know I read a lot of smart alecky articles about people with wanting Big Ben to retire. But that's because I just can't believe it. I just can't believe. I realize he's at the end of the rope, at the end of the line. He only has maybe a year or two left. But I've never seen a franchise quarterback, play his full career with the Steelers. So it never occurred to me that anybody would want to see him go. especially after a year where he had 33 touchdowns and 10 interceptions. And I realized he struggled a bit down the stretch, but they all struggled. The whole offense struggled, starting with the line and the receivers, and like Robert Golden mentioned with the drops and everything. I think it's going to be exciting to see what happens with him coming off of a year where he doesn't have to rehab his elbow after major surgery, where it's just a normal off season for him, or as normal as you can get nowadays. And I think it's going to be a decent year for them next year. Are they going to win a Super Bowl? I don't know, but I think they're going to compete. They're going to compete at least for a division title, and I think people should be excited about that. If Ben would have left, I think you're looking at maybe 6, 7, 8 wins. I think with him here, maybe you repeat the same kind of record you had last year. You just never know. It's early. So,
well, I have a question for you, Tony.
Okay.
Put yourself. You are Ben Roethlisberger, and too many fans I don't think do this. Put yourself in Ben Roethlisberger's shoes. He missed all of 2019. He fought to come back. They had this amazing winning streak to start. Things kind of fell off at the end. The Steelers chose to move on from both the offensive coordinator and offensive line coach, which kind of tells you that maybe you get some indication of where they think things were lying and maybe where there were some problems. But you also came back for a season that ended the way it did. And 2020 was just weird. You had all the COVID protocols. They're still going to have the similar protocols, but you're playing in front of empty stadiums. Is that how you want to go out after all these years playing with the Steelers? Or do you understand why he feels, hey, if the arm's going to hold up, I will do everything I can and pour all I can into one more season. Do you do that? Is that the same choice you're making as Ben Roethlisberger?
Absolutely. I wouldn't want to go out that way. I wouldn't want to go out after a season like 2020, even if they would have won the Super Bowl. I'd want to go out and more of a normal season with fans in the stands and people cheering you on, and just a more traditional kind of year. And like you said, last year was so fluky, so weird. It just, I don't know. I can understand kind of now, like I was, kind of poo-pooing the sort of lost bye because they had to have it so early, thanks to the Titans. But then when you hear Tony Romo and those guys talking about how it benefited the Buccaneers to have their bye so late, now I kind of see why maybe they kind of fizzled out a bit at the end. But you give them a more traditional year, a more traditional offseason, and you give him him a normal offseason. I think he's going to be better for it, and they're going to be better for it as an organization. I don't think you want to just walk away. I don't think you're ready to walk away from Ben just yet if you're the Steelers. I think maybe, you're ready to ask him to make a sacrifice for the team, but to ask him just to walk away, I think that would have been a big mistake. I think their defense is too good for them not to have a good quarterback at the helm.
Well, I also think, because you said, you kind of brought this up, that I think it would be too much to fix if you're also saying, let's fix the quarterback too. And you're like,
right.
Well, you could have a stopgap quarterback. Well, Ben Roethlisberger's your stopgap quarterback right now.
Right.
So do you really want to have to fix the offensive line and fix the running back and fix all these aspects of the running game? Now, granted, one of those fixes could be a young running quarterback, but I don't know. It's not like the Steelers had it right there and ready. I like the notion of if the Steelers are going to do whatever they can to get another, get the next guy. I'm not, I don't know that anyone's convinced that the next guy is on the team. There's possibilities, maybe Mason Rudolph explodes. Maybe the Dwayne Haskins experiment is exactly what he needs to be in Pittsburgh. You'd never know. I don't think the Steelers are banking on it. It's just really good if it happens.
Right.
So why not fix these other things and really try to focus on those to make sure that when your next quarterback does come in, that they're coming into a better situation? Because a quarterback coming in to a situation with no running game, that's too much to put on a quarterback. And if you're going to have to do it, it might as well be with a guy that's played as many years as Ben Roethlisberger.
Absolutely. And Ben's a great example of that. He came into his rookie year. He had a great defense. He had a great offensive line. He had a great running back. He had Hines Ward. He had a great a Super Bowl team already there. He was just a missing piece. So as you said, if you fix all these things now with him here, if you fix the line, if you fix the running game, if Matt Canada is the real deal as a coordinator, then when Ben does retire and you decide to bring in another quarterback, maybe it's a free agent, but more likely it's going to be a first round draft choice. Well, you bring him in and you throw him in right away, or maybe it's Dwayne Haskins or Mason Rudolph or somebody like that. You bring them in, you put them in, and they have a really good team around them, rather than trying to fix everything all at once. Once Ben, fix the quarterback situation, fix the line, fix the running game. So I think this is good. I think they can make their team better this year, and once Ben does go, then it's just a matter of finding the right guy as the quarterback, and hopefully, and hoping that he's the real deal for them.
Yeah. So
you want to take some questions? A few questions?
Hey, it's your show. I feel like I've already taken over too much.
All right. So well,
it's what you want to do, Tony.
Well, we'll take a few comments and questions, and then we'll say goodnight for the weekend, or at least for tonight anyway. Let's see what we have here. We got one from AJ Gavin, who's a regular. Mm-hmm. I'm having trouble with this tonight. Wow. I don't know. Maybe
I think you're double clicking them. I think you're bringing it up and then they're disappearing.
There it is. Also, Ben retires after 2021, and the new QB takes over midseason 2022. Well, that'd be great. That's like basically what happened with Ben, although it was in week 2. But I think that was the plan with Ben. It was him. He was going to play behind Tommy Maddox for a year, and then they were going to
Tommy Maddox. Right?
Yeah.
Ben was the number 3.
Yeah, it was, Charlie Batch was number 2, and he happened to be injured for that Baltimore game, and Ben went in and he never looked back. So it was so I think I kind of agree, and I've been saying this for a couple of years now. I don't think their next Ben is on the roster. I think he's still in college. Hopefully he's in college and not in kindergarten, So when they draft a new guy, they can develop. But hopefully, since the Steelers are the Steelers and they're not overreactionary like a lot of teams, they're going to bring a new guy in, they're going to put him in, and they're going to let him play out his 5-year deal before deciding whether or not he's the real deal or not. Mm-hmm. It just drives me crazy that so many teams move on quickly from quarterbacks, because I think it's the one position where they don't necessarily get the chance to develop like another position. Like look at Vince Williams. He came in, he was thrown in his rookie year because they had so many injuries at inside linebacker, and he struggled a bit. By the end of the year, Troy Polamalu basically was playing inside linebacker, but he learned from it. He gained experience from it, and now look at him. I mean, he might be a cap casualty, but he's had a great career as a Steeler. So I think sometimes you just have to let these quarterbacks, these young quarterbacks, develop and not react after a year and get rid of them. And that just drives me nuts. That's just me. But like Sam Darnold, I think, there's a guy that if I'm the Jets, I'm not looking to trade him. I'm looking to continue to see what I have in him for another, 2 years. So,
yeah. Look, that class, was it like Josh Rosen or something?
Yeah, Josh Rosen, who
he got passed all over the place.
Yeah, he got passed over the place, and now his career's shot, basically.
Yeah.
And here's one from Chad Landsman from Facebook, and he says, we trade for Sam from the Jets. So there you go, right on cue.
Yep.
But I don't think if I'm the Jets, I wouldn't do that. You've already invested a high draft pick in him. I think it's up to you owe it to him and your team to build around Sam Darnold. And here's a $5 super chat from DS, I've never seen you before, DS. So thank you for the $5, and thank you for stopping by. And I hope you become a regular. Anyway, DS says, what is more likely, a running back drafted in the first round or an O-line drafted in the first? Which could help the running game the most? Thanks, guys. Keep it up. So what do you think, Dave? And thank you for the $5 again.
There's a lot of different philosophies here, and I can spill out a lot of things to you. I could talk about this for an hour. Versus O-line versus running back in the first round. I think you're probably faced with those positions where they think. But as I talked about on my Stat Geek podcast, which for those of you who listen to this on audio platform may have already caught that because it's audio only. It came out on Thursday, is that the Steelers draft tons of defensive players in the first round under Mike Tomlin. It's
Right.
it's 10-3. So I still wouldn't be shocked if they went defense just because it's what they do. Not that I think that they should, but offensive line running back seems to be there. Couple of things. Don't get caught up in, that was the fifth best tackle versus the top running back. Where they rank in their position group doesn't matter. It's where they rank overall. It really is going to depend on how everything falls out. And some people might be like, the Steelers are going to pass on this running back in the first round because they took this player. It might have been because they liked another running back better that they know was going to be available later. The same thing happened. I said it before. I think I don't know if I said on the preview or if I said on Scobro show with Juju Smith-Schuster, that people were like, why are the Steelers taking running back in the second round? We need a corner. Well, they took Cam Sutton in the third round. And I know he hasn't been a regular starter. He's a sub package guy, but he's probably the best corner they've drafted in a long time, if you think about it.
Right.
So they knew the guy they wanted and where they could get him. And that's why you take the other best player then. But if I had to choose numbers wise, I would go offensive lineman, because if you draft that, I don't know that there's a center that right now, things could change between now and the draft that would be worthy of taking at number 24. But if you got a real stud offensive lineman, you're talking about someone you're probably keeping for 10 years, versus a running back you might only have for 5.
Right.
So that's why the running back position is being devalued in the draft as much as it is, mainly because they're not there with the longevity. And I know that doesn't help you in 2021 or 2022, and that's what that what should matter. But that's also something that I have in my mind, and that's why I think other teams don't jump as much on running backs, and you can still get a good one later on.
Yeah, I think you can get your first round running back in the second round. I think that's where most of the good ones wind up now. I think it's just such a there's such a bigger priority on. I remember one scout saying a number of years ago when Bell was holding out, you paid a quarterback, you paid a guy that rushes the quarterback, you paid a receiver, you paid a guy that covers him, and you paid the left tackle that protects his or the right tackle that protects his blind side. Running backs are down the list, and you can. I think if you rebuild your offensive line, that goes a long way in taking care of the running game. And I think the way to go, in my opinion, is you go O-line. And if the right player's there, you go O-line first, and you can still get the running back in the second round. That's just, I think that's the way to go. And it's not a sexy pick. Alan Faneca, nobody was excited about him, but he's a Hall of Famer now.
Yeah.
Marquise Pouncey, people were saying, get Des Bryant. Well, one's going in the Hall of Fame likely, and the other one, I like Des Bryant, but he's not going to the Hall of Fame. So I think it's not, it doesn't give you that rush on draft day to draft an offensive lineman, but it's such a, Alan Faneca was the one who made the key block in the Super Bowl and for Willie Parker. So, there you go.
I'll always remember that play. My dad called that play right before it happened. Actually, he called it about 5 minutes before the second half started. But my question to you is, I see a lot of people that feel very strongly one way or the other how the Steelers should do it. We see it in our live chats. We see it in the comments in our articles. We see it on social media. Are you, even if I say that if I had to pick, I would pick offensive linemen. Are you that set on it? Are you kind of trust that the Steelers know what they're doing and that if they take a different position to start, or, that they have a plan for what they're going to do later?
No, especially when they're at 24. I'm not set at any position really, because you just never know who's going to be there. But it's like you said before, don't focus on you're taking the fifth best lineman when you have the second best running back available. I think if there's all the good linemen are gone, then no, I'm not. Definitely, you have to go with the better value as long as it fits a need. Like if it's a running back, if all the linemen are gone and there's a really good running back there, it's too hard to pass up. Then maybe I pull the trigger there. But I think when people look at these at the end of the first round, especially they start getting wrapped up in the value side of it. But if the Steelers feel like they have their guy as an offensive tackle probably, and he happens to be the fifth or sixth highest guy on the board, like ranked at the position. Don't freak out if they take him because as long as he's graded out at the end of the first round and he's somebody that they like, I think that's okay. I'm not set on any one position. It's just a matter of when their time comes at 24, is that guy a first round worthy pick? That's the only thing that I question.
And I think that's going to be a lot harder to judge this year without the combine.
Right.
That you're going to see players. I said this on another show. I can't remember what shows I say stuff on, but you're going to see guys that people think are really high not go as high, and people that other people think aren't. I mean, it could just be because the Steelers might be at a pro day, or these, however they're working these things. I'm not exactly sure. And maybe they're getting a feel of another team that really likes someone. And then they're like, well, we'd like to get him in the third round, but this team picks before us. So if we don't have anyone else we're absolutely in love with in the second round, and this is the guy we really want, then we better take him here. See, that's almost that's to me, that was the Deontay Johnson, that situation. Some people felt that they could have, I was like, they needed to take him here, but they took him there because he was not going to be available when they had a pick. It was like 12 picks later or something. He probably wasn't going to be there.
Right. Yeah.
So there's a lot that goes into it. And I've said it over and over again. I don't fall in love with any player in the NFL draft until they're announced as a Pittsburgh Steeler. There's guys that I like and I'd like to see there, but I'm never going to really fall in love with them until their name is called, and I know they're wearing black and gold.
Yeah, exactly. And I usually don't like as long as it's not a major reach, and I hate to say fill a need because everybody else says fill a need because you don't really know if you're filling a need. Mm-hmm. As long as it's not a major reach and it addresses a need at one of many positions, then I'm fine with it. I think that I don't follow the draft as closely as other people do, so I don't get enamored with particular players, but I do know what positions need to be addressed, and as long as they're doing that, and it's a guy that's not a reach, like Terrell, he's turning out to be a pretty decent player, but he really threw everybody for a loop when they drafted him. So
if he wasn't a first round draft pick, even if he was a second round draft pick, I think Steelers Nation would love him so much more.
Absolutely.
Because I mean, and it's so funny because the people that still are really down on, he's terrible. I'm like, I don't think you watched and what he was doing in 2020. Because
I mean, he's turned into a solid player.
Yeah. Yes, he has. I mean, I don't know that he's still fits where he was picked, if you know what I mean. But and that's how I remember doing this article. Oh man, that was a while ago, where I flipped out players in the same draft and how people would look at them differently if they were drafted here rather than there. And that's always a lot of fun. But I'm kind of like, I don't follow college football. I follow some prospects and everything. I might be high on someone, but when the Steelers take them, that's when I'm like, they've got to be good, because that's how I trust the Steelers. I mean, look at last year's draft class.
Oh my gosh.
First time ever, every single one of their draft picks made the team and appeared for a game with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Right. Yeah. And they were, so many of them were, at least a few of them were critical contributors. Yeah. Obviously Chase Claypool and Kevin Dotson, maybe more than anybody, and Alex Highsmith at the end of the year.
And they all did it in their first year too. I mean, the Steelers haven't even had a draft before where a lot of the guys played, a couple of them ended up with the practice squad and then made their way up to play some games later. No, they've never had a draft where every player ended up playing a game for the Steelers. This was the first one. That's why I think they did. I mean, and with everything going on and without the pro days and everything, and the weird, training camp, and you couldn't have rookie mini camp and stuff. It's pretty impressive.
And that's the kind of thing that could, people think that they're going to, fall off the cliff because of, once Ben leaves, but that's the kind of draft that might keep them a contender as long as they can find the right quarterback. Dare I mention the 1975 Dallas Cowboys, but they were pretty much their 10-year run of a Super Bowl team was pretty much coming to an end. They missed the playoffs in 74, but all 12 of their draft picks made their team in 75, and that gave them another 10 years where they were a major contributor. So, you look at that 08.
They must have got all the good players that should have been on the Steelers because their 75 draft.
Oh, yeah.
After that amazing 74.
their first round pick, Dave Brown, Steelers first round, they let him go in the expansion draft a year later, and he went to the Seahawks, and he had a great career for them. So, I mean, but you look at the Steelers 08 draft and how nothing happened, and their 09 draft wasn't much better. And you look at how they struggled after that Super Bowl 45 year. Those 2012 and 2013 rosters were so depleted because that's when those draft classes should have been in their prime. And they were all but, I think Ryan Mundy was the last one left, and he was gone by 2013. So
I've been doing that series. It's of articles on Thursdays, reliving whatever happened to the players from different drafts. I started with 04, been working my way up. This past week was 2010. So if you haven't checked that out, they're there. You can find out what happened to every draft pick the Steelers have had so far. We'll work all the way up to 2020 by the time the draft gets here. Tony, I got to ask you one last question. I don't get to come on and ask you questions.
Okay.
You're usually the ones just doing this stuff, and I know we're about out of time. But because this is something my brother and I ask each other, how much do you think the Steelers team needs are going to change in the next 4 weeks, meaning with free agency?
Oh, gosh, that's a good question because, like Brian and I talked about on a recent hangover, if they find the right a running back, for example, if they can sign like a guy like a Marlon Mack or somebody like that, somebody that's not going to be too expensive, well, there's maybe your running back for 2020, the guy that can compete for a starting job. If you find the right lineman, which is going to be harder to do, I think you're not like I mean, look at the guys like Calvin Beachum and Chris Hubbard, the deals that they signed as left tackles. They're probably not going to want to shell out that kind of money. So it could change. It could change a lot, but it all depends on what position they go after. If they go after an O lineman, then I think that changes everything. But I don't.
DJ Finney's back in the mix,
right? Yeah, I mean, if they can get somebody like him as maybe a stopgap center, I think
or depth piece,
or a depth piece, I mean, and it all depends on who they like. Some of their own stars that they retain, like Cam Sutton, are they going to be able to retain him, or did he put himself on the map so much that he's going to be almost as expensive as Mike Hilton? Because it's all about timing with free agency, and maybe you have to retain a guy like a Sean Davis to be your slot corner for 2021. You just never know. So, I mean, obviously, I think
I didn't mean to cringe, but I did. So,
yeah. Well, I mean, he has experience at that, but not a lot of experience. But I think it could change a lot. I mean, we saw last year they signed Wisniewski, they signed Eric Ebron, and that changed how they.
Big one. Tight end went from the top to the bottom on that list.
Right.
So.
Yeah. So I mean, if you can get one guy from one of those positions, a big, not a big free agent, but like kind of like a Mike Mitchell, Ebron, Ladarius Green kind of free agent, then that changes things a lot. And here's just me, and then I'll bid you all adieu, and I'll say good night. And she donates $2 and asks, and here I screwed it up again.
No, you had it.
Do we sign Finney back? I think it's possible. It's possible. I mean, he's obviously has a history with them, and they can, like as you said, they can use him for depth, if nothing else. So
here's how I look at it with Finney. You don't not make that call, if you know what I mean. You at least look into it, because that's just what's going on. Maybe he's getting offers from the place. I mean, he didn't play a single offensive snap last year. Right. So I know some people are like, well, he's familiar with Pittsburgh, but look, it's new offensive line coaches. Right. New offensive coordinator, but at least he has some. I mean, he snapped the ball to Ben Roethlisberger before. Right. So whether it would be center guard, to me, it would be like another Wisniewski deal, someone who could, to kind of fill that role that he was supposed to have. I'm not opposed to it at all. If you think if they're even thinking about giving him half as much as he was given to go to Seattle, which was 2 years, $8 million, then I'm not going to be happy with it. But
well,
maybe half as much, but not more than half as much.
Maybe half and a half.
Yeah, maybe league minimum would be great, but or if it's a little bit more, but not a lot.
Yeah, I agree. I think he'd be great to bring back, but it has to be at the right price. So,
yes.
Having said all that, I think it was a fantastic show. I mean, it was great talking to you, Dave. It was a fantastic interview with Robert Golden. I thank him for being here. I thank everybody out there for all the donations and the great questions and comments. And you guys are awesome. And on that note, I will bid you all adieu and talk to you on Monday with Brian on The Hangover. And until then, have a great weekend and go Steelers. Have a good night, everybody.